because we did this presentation together, a little part of it at the agricultural conference, so we're going to do a little bit of it as well. And I want her to speak to a little bit about the vineyard as well, because she is the chef of what's going on there. But want to talk a little bit about, how do we come about doing a restaurant? So we moved to the country, we moved to Somerville, Georgia, and we wanted to do agriculture. So we visited, I don't know if you guys know, Bountiful Blessing Farms by the name of John Dysinger, him and his family does. So we ended up going and visiting them, and we were inspired to go and do agriculture for industry. And so we bought a 10-acre property in Somerville, Georgia. Real estate compared to Somerville and South Florida is like, wow, you can get all this for this little bit of money. And we started farming. And we were farming, we had 20 some odd beds, 50 feet long. We just had a lot of produce that were growing. And I loved it. And I was like part-time corporate America, part-time farmer. And it came an opportunity where there was a small health food store in Somerville, and they were thinking about doing a restaurant. And my wife, when she comes to potluck, her dishes were very good. So people was like, you got a skill. The Lord has blessed you. So why don't you help us out with this restaurant? So I'm like, okay. Well, the Lord opened the door. We'll walk through it. So I was like, let's do it. So it's funny because you have people who talk about doing things, and you have people who, always like, oh, you have a conversation. Everybody's excited about doing things. I said, I'm always that person who end the conversation, right? I said, you know what? Let's just do it. And they're like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. It was like, let's let it. Anyway, so we were excited about doing a restaurant. And so there was a place in town that used to be a restaurant, and they closed down. So they set up a meeting with the landlord, and we started talking about, different things. And I just stood up and said, let's do it. The rent was cheap enough, but we can try this thing out. And we ended up signing the lease, and we just closed on the house. We had no money, and my wife was pregnant at the time. But we were like, the Lord opened the door, and we're like, oh, this is so exciting. Like, we're climbing up a mountain. We have no clue what's on the other side. This is so exciting. And then they were like, so I remember praying. I was like, Lord, I don't know. We don't know nothing about a restaurant. I've sold to restaurants for years, but I don't know anything about the restaurant work. So we started studying Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 7 to the church, and really just trying to come up with and try to stay as close as we can to what the Spirit of Prophecy said. We were praying. We're like, Lord, where are we going to get all this equipment from? We have no clue what equipment to buy, etc. So our business partners at the time went to a lifestyle center in Tennessee, and then they were excited about. We just signed a lease to start a restaurant, and they started relaying, just talking about it. And one lady was like, "Wait a minute," and she's looking at it like, "What? Everything's okay?" She said, "The Lord told me the next person who asks me about a restaurant that I donate all my equipment to them." So she calls me, and they're like, we got all this equipment. Like, what type of equipment? Like, we don't know. This lady just said the Lord just told her to donate all their restaurant equipment to us. And we're like, praise the Lord. Because that day, I literally was praying to God, laughing. Like, Lord, we ain't got no money to do no restaurant. Like, what you got? And I'm like, well, you're going to have to do something. If it's your will for it to open up, it's your problem. And sure enough, and so we just went and had to go pick it up. So you're talking about tables, chairs, silverware, refrigerators, stove. I mean, we just had to go pick it up. So we brought that here. I'm like, the Lord must want us to start a restaurant in Somerville, Georgia. So we like, okay. So we started moving forward in that, and we would never open the restaurant if we didn't get that donation. It just would have been finances, everything. So we knew the Lord was in that work. So we had to come up with a name. And my wife is good at names. I'm just like restaurant, but she's very good with names and meetings, so I'll let her explain how. Is this mic on? I might have to get a mic. Okay, good.
So with the name, with this, we was trying. I was like, I don't know how to. I said, you want a name that's going to be impactful and have some meaning behind it. And so when I was doing devotion one morning, I was reading John 15:5, and then as I'm reading, I'm like, it was talking about the vine and how without him we can do nothing. And so I was like, why don't we go work in the Lord's vineyard? And so that's how I came up with vineyard. And then we did vegetarian cafe. Well, we did vegetarian was strategically placed into there because we're in a town that's fairly high in meat and potatoes. And so you say vegan, that's like a red flag.
And, we use honey, too. Now,
Yes.
see, that's why I always say plant-based. People don't realize, this is vegan. Like, I'm not vegan because vegans, you got a leather belt on,
Yeah.
they're going to string you up on a tree.
I mean, we had a customer
I'm
also
serious.
come in the restaurant. We have these, I don't even know if it was leather, but
We got some chairs.
we got some chairs off for auction, and it kind of looked like leather. And she was like, "Are those leather?" I was like, "I
It's
don't
a
know."
chair.
She was like, "Oh, I can't sit on it.
I'm not sitting on those chairs.
I'm gonna wait outside."
So that's why I say, and we use honey.
Yeah.
Vegans don't like use honey. So we say plant-based. So we use vegetarian. So that's why we go vegetarian. And so John 15. So that's a whole nother. We had so many testimonies that the Lord has just moved us from place to place. We're in the building where we were before. We had John 15:5 up biggest
On the
on the
wall.
wall. And people's like, wow, you weren't about offending anybody with John 15:5? I said, man, I go into these Thai restaurants and they got this little blue thing with 8 arms sitting right at when you come into the door. And people be throwing money to that. And I'm like, that's their God. And I said, they can worship our God, I can worship my God. I can put a Bible verse on the thing. So, and that was a learning experience. The first year was a very learning experience. And our business partners at the time, they took an assignment in South Korea. So we took over the restaurant fully. And we had to get real creative in different things, which was challenging, challenging at best. But a little bit about the vineyard and where the Lord has brought us. So we've worked with public school systems, right? So this is a second grade for public school. And how we got involved with that, we did a 10-day challenge with a lot of people in the town. And I said, man, could you bring that health program into our school? So we took all the second grade, and you can imagine trying to keep a bunch of second graders hyped up on sugar, focused for an hour. So you see, we got a lot of different, we had Guess Was in the Box here. We had, because we tried to bring all the 8 laws of health. And one of them we was like, how do we trust in God? How do we do trust in God? So we did in the public school. So we said, instead of trusting God, we say trust in authority. And this is how we illustrated with the kids. So we had some volunteers from our church. I said, they volunteer. You never know what you're going to volunteer for. So they said, yeah, I'll be a volunteer. So we had this little obstacle course, right? And then what we did, we blindfolded all of our volunteers. And then we had another volunteer on the other side of the gym. And they were to, yell out instructions on how to get through the obstacle course. Pick this up, go here, go left, go right. And then I had a bunch of 4 second graders surround the volunteer, and say, when you're going to hear somebody telling you to go the right way, but I want all you kids to tell them to go the wrong way, right? So here walk in, they're like, go left, and the volunteer's like, go right, go right. And the kids are like, no, go backwards. And it was a big fun, big laughs. But the purpose was, and told the kids, you're going to have a lot of noise around you. People kind of tell you to do the wrong thing. But you need to trust in authority. Trust in authority, which is from your teachers, the principal, et cetera, et cetera. And the kids got it. And then we did, my wife did some smoothies for them. So you can see, you want to tell them like.
Try to introduce to them using fresh fruits and vegetables from the garden and trying to change their taste buds a little bit, try new things versus sticking to what they know. And so it was like, how many people like smoothie? Everybody raised their hands.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, so we're going to create a smoothie. And so we had different ingredients on the table. It's like, oh, we're going to throw in strawberries. Yeah, we're going to throw in pineapples. Yeah, mango. Yeah, spinach. No!
You're going to mess it up. Don't put spinach in there. So, but we did. We put the spinach in there, and they just was like, oh. And you should have seen them because they were so funny because they would smell it. They would smell it before they taste it, and they're like, and then they would. It just was it was a ball. So we've done that program. We've done several programs with the public school system, bringing God's plan to health in there. And a lot of times, people don't realize, we are a ministry, but we have the vineyard cafe. You know, we just kind of, that's just like our, so we're allowed to get in the doors. We've done cooking classes in corporate events. I've been in corporate America doing cooking classes. So this is all using a center of influence and utilizing it can help us. We also do in-home cooking schools. So let me take them out. Take it for a walk. So we also do in-home cooking schools. You want to talk about in-home cooking schools?
So with the in-home cooking schools, it helps you to get more personal with the people that you're interacting with. What we do, we go in their homes and we show them different ways that they can cook things a better way. Substitutions of different ingredients that they're used to. And also as an opportunity, sometimes it opens up into more than just an in-home cooking class. It opens up to more spiritual things because it's like, oh, so what do you think about this? And then we kind of show them in the Bible, say, okay, yes, you can find this in the Bible, or give them other resources that they can go to for it.
So in-home cooking classes is great, and this is something that's in conjunction with our 10-day health challenge. So this is part of the 10-day health challenge. We also do kids cooking schools. Now this is a blast.
I have to say that was probably the most eventful event.
Yeah, because we hear all the time, people go through our program and say, my kids are never going to eat this stuff. And they say, what was your advice? I said, back when I was growing up, a hungry child will eat, you know. I didn't have options. It was dinner. And my mom was like, I don't want that. She'll take it off the table and say, go to bed, go eat some sleep then. So I was like, oh, okay, so whatever was on the table, we ate. But you know, now it's a different generation, people got choices. Okay, so how do we work with that? I say, well, get the kids in the kitchen. I say, give them a budget. Say, you know, hey, you know, you got a $15 budget. You know, here's some cookbooks. Pick something to eat. Let's go to the store and let's go buy it up, and let's go make it. And I said, you'll see that no matter if it tastes good or not, they made it and they will eat it.
So with we did a 3-day cooking school with this one, and what we did, we tried to use it as a tool for ministry as well.
Everything's outreach focused.
We did a 3 days. So the first day was like introduction, third day was like preparation, and the third day was we had told them to invite their family and friends for a banquet. So they put on the banquet for their parents and family. And so during the banquet, he kind of brought into the kind of like a.
Well, they're getting the gospel of health. So they kind of, I was like, what brings you here? Oh, my granddaughter called me. My granddaughter called me and told me she made something, so I had to come. So, you know, there's something in marketing called the nag effect. I don't know if everybody heard the nag effect. It's in marketing. It's in marketing. So that's why you always see the toy commercials and the cereal commercials and cartoons. You never see it when you're watching Jeopardy or anything like that. You don't see, you know, Lucky Charms or anything like that. They put it with the kids because the kids are going to nag their parents. They're going to go to the grocery store. Mommy, I want that. Mommy, I want that. Mommy, I want that. You're like, no, Mommy, I want that. And it gets on and on until the parents just give in. Say, okay, fine, get it. Just be quiet. That's called a nag effect. So we can use the nag effect as well in the godly way. So we did the nag effect with the second graders. They nagged their parents to come to the restaurant and buy smoothies. And now they use the nag effect to nag their grandparents to come out to a banquet. So we can use it as well. But we took ages, we say if they can walk, bring them. Yeah. And we go all the way to 18. So we had a really, really good time.
And it was funny because the older kids, they were a little skeptical about doing it. It's like, I'm good. I don't really need to know how to do this.
The kids was too cool. They was too cool.
And then they saw how much fun the young kids were having, and they finally came over afterwards, like, oh, can I do one too? Making
bread and stuff, so they made bread. And so and we also do cooking classes. We do cooking schools. This is one of the cooking schools we did. And this was I think they were doing like a diabetes class or something. Reversing diabetes. Yeah. And we did a cooking class for them. This was our vegetable lasagna. We had over 100, I think it was close to 100 people there. So we've been, and this is our restaurant here. This is our restaurant. This is our monthly cooking class that we do at our restaurant. So and it's free. You know, we try to educate the community to eat more healthier. And again, we've done cooking classes. So one thing we want to do, we want to talk a little bit about unity as we go along. We're going to talk a little about 10-day challenge towards the end of this presentation. And are we going to do question and answers right after? Okay. So One of my favorite verses in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 8 and verse 2. It says, if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. So what this tells me is we always got something to learn. We even if we've done things 100 times, I read Genesis 1 and 1 100 times, you just don't know how deep it gets. We were talking about right in Fellowship Hall how we got to dig deep into the Word of God. So there's always something to learn. And so unity in living parables is what we did at the Ag, and I like that title because we looked at unity in 3 different spheres. One was the family. So you want to speak to that? How do we become unified as a family?
Well, how do I explain? So with unity in family, one thing that was powerful for us was that if we weren't unified, we couldn't do anything with the ministry because we all had to be on the same page. When you're on different pages, it's just chaos. And so when we were unified, we were able to come together, pray together, and
even when we moved to
forward.
the country, even when we was in the country, we prayed together as a family, and we were just unified and going to the country, unified to what the Lord wanted us to do. And we talked about this quote earlier. The greatest evidence of Christianity ever can present to the world is a well-ordered, well-disciplined family. This recommend the truth as nothing else can, for it is a living witness of His practical power. And we talked about that this morning. And one of the things that that's one of the things that we spoke about. And this quote right here kind of blew us away right here. So talking about our first duty to God and man. So our first duty toward God and our fellow beings is that of what? Self-development. Every faculty which the Creator has endowed us should be cultivated to the highest degree of perfection, that we may be able to do the greatest amount of good of which we are capable. Hence, that time is spent to good account, which is used in the establishment and preservation of physical and mental health. We can't afford to dwarf off, cripple any function of our mind and body. As surely as we do this, we must suffer the consequences. So I thought, when this quote was presented to us, that what is our first duty towards God and man? I didn't think self-development was. But then as I started to think about it, I played football in college, right? And one thing we learned as we go through training camp and we learn our assignments and we're trying to perfect our part of the bigger picture, we knew I always said, I don't even want to be the one to make us fail. I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to make sure that the unit succeeds. So we look at that from a Christian perspective. God says, I have a manuscript release, volume 14, page 205, paragraph 4, said, to every human being, God has assigned an individuality and a distinct work. So God created Brother Garfield to do something. And if he doesn't fulfill what God created him to do, I suffer. Does that make sense? Because Martin Luther King says, I can't be all I can be until I help my brother be all he can be. And that's what it's about as we look at this whole body of Christ. We need to fully self-develop. We were talking about lunch and how the brother was learning Spanish. That's self-development. And I tell the youth all the time, you want to, in your time of, don't have to worry about bills and you kind of doing all, and this is the time where you want to pour in as much as you can and put yourself in a position to be used. We had the privilege of going to a conference in Houston. Somebody called us and said, you guys need to go, pay for us to go. And everybody who spoke got paid $50,000 an hour to speak. Yeah. I said, what? And you know what they did? They just, and they wasn't no geniuses. This guy was like 24 years old. He mastered a particular, I mastered Facebook marketing. So companies now pay him $50,000 to come speak for an hour. And I said, and I tell the youth, this is our time when you don't have all these distractions. Even the old, we need to cultivate every faculty, because once we do that and we reach our full potential, God can place us in places to be a blessing. But we have to do our part. God provides the opportunity, but it's up to us to take advantage of the opportunity. Amen. So And one of the things, you want to talk about this? My wife drew this tree out about unity, because this is so important.
So as we were preparing for the agricultural conference, we were talking about unity and living parables. And the living parable is what we're doing in our life to help further God's work. And I drew this, I don't know if you can really
It's from restaurants.
see it, but in John 15:5, it's all the basics. John 15:5, he is the vine. And so each branch is every line of work that we can be helping to unify and come together for one. Because
Sure.
our common goal is to be unified in Christ. And so in the different lines that we have come across that helps with this is the hygienic restaurants, medical missionaries in agriculture, coal porters and canvasser, and working with our local church, or churches in our case. And so as a restaurant, we were able to bring all of this together because we're using the restaurant, we're using the agriculture for the food aspect of the restaurant, but we're also reaching people in their homes in the community, and we're bringing in the medical missionaries because they're sick, they need help. And so they have the tools to bring different hydrotherapy, different treatments, books and
home.
resources to their home. We also have call porters that they want more of a spiritual aspect, more devotionals and stuff like that, tools that they can use to get on pace to continuing and have a continued relationship with the community that we build together. And then the church is there to help support these each different lines of work. And so all that working together, you create that tree of unity for everyone.
That's right.
And then we found this quote. It says, unity and diversity, speaking on John 17:20-21. It says, what kind of unity is spoken of in these words? Unity and diversity. Our minds do not all run in the same channel, and we have not all been given the same work. God has given to every man his work according to his several ability. There are different kinds of work to be done, and workers of varied capabilities are needed. If our hearts are humbled, if we learn in the school of Christ to be meek and lowly, we may all press together in the narrow path marked out for us. Now for this, when I read this, I said, this is good because everybody doesn't have, like, my husband, he might not have the passion for, like, cooking. I have the passion for
I
cooking.
like to cook. But she's like next level.
And so it's like, okay, well, I don't enjoy that, but he's good at talking, good at selling. And so we bring that together. Everybody has their specific talent that they can use in different ways and come together to meet the people where they're at.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I like it. I like how it said in this quote, the school of Christ to be meek and lowly. Ronald Reagan, he was a president, and he had every on his desk he had a quote, and it said, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, and you can Google it. It said, we don't know how much good can be done if we stop worrying about who gets credit. He says, what is the amount of, there's the amount of good that can be done if we stop worrying about who gets credit, something to that effect. So that, to me, as you're working with people, and, I came, and it was so funny, when I came into the church, and I go to different conferences, and I look, and I said, I smell competition here. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, since I can walk, I know what competition is. And it seemed like these ministries are competing against each other and not working together. Mm-hmm. And they looked at me like I saw a ghost. They saw a ghost. And I just kind of, because somebody was telling me, because I'm walking and they said, I just saw a medical missionary training school. And the next one says, well, my missionary school is better than that one. And I'm like, well, it's like, man, why are we competing? I just stopped them and I told a little story of how I was growing up and just kind of threw them all off. I said, this looks like competing to me. And he just looked like he saw a ghost. And I said, hey, we need to work together. How about we look across to that ministry? How can we work together? How can we work together? Because I got top 5 quotes in Spirit of Prophecy, and this is one of them. It was in Acts of the Apostles, page 87, paragraph 3. And it says, the hearts of those converted by the work of the apostles were united in brotherly love. Despite former differences, all were in harmony one with another. It says, Satan knew as long as this unity continued that he would be powerless to check the spread of gospel truth. And I said, okay, so this is why Jesus is praying in John 17:21 about unity. Because he knows if they're all unified, the gospel cannot be stopped. So the devil says, well, how can I get them to be disunified? So you bring in an element of competition, you bring in an element of I want to be the greatest into it. And you have that, and guess what? Now they're disunified. They're not unified. And we see that problem in the upper room. As they were going up into the upper room, they were contending about who could be the greatest. And God had to come out and wash their feet, give them the ordinance of humility, and show them that in order for us to be unified, we're all at the same level. None is greater than the other. So the different various gifts. You want to read that for us?
Yeah. All meet as blood-bought souls, alike dependent upon one who hath redeemed them to God. The Lord has lent them talents to improve. Those whom he has entrusted with money bring their talents of means to the master.
You see that? Talent of means. That's a talent. You got somebody who just all of a sudden they inherited $5 million. And they're like, well, I need to go to Dave Ramsey class to see how I'm going to manage all this money I got now. No, God says, I've given you that talent to further the work. So,
the men and women of influence use that which God has given them. The ones whom he has endowed with wisdom bring to the cross of Christ this gift to be used to his glory. And the poor have their talent, which perhaps may be larger than any other mentioned. It may be simplicity of character, humility, tried virtue, and confidence in God. Through patient toil, through their entire dependence upon God, they are pointing those with whom they associate to Jesus, their Redeemer. They have a heart full of sympathy for the poor, a home for the needy and oppressed, and their testimony is clear and decided as to what Jesus is to them. They seek for glory, honor, and immortality, and their reward will be eternal life. In the human brotherhood, it takes all classes of talents to make a perfect whole, and the Church of Christ is composed of all ranks, all classes, and varied talents. God never designed that the pride of men should dissolve that which his own wisdom had ordained, the combination of all classes of minds, of all the varied talents that make a complete whole.
that last sentence right there is powerful to me. Because sometimes, you go to a church and this person is a doctor or a lawyer, then all of a sudden they have a lot of influence. And then there's somebody like, we have somebody, who may be poor, and they're talking about from their perspective how we need to help more of the poor. And there's somebody who never had to go to, they donated to a food bank, but they never went to a food bank to get food. That's two totally different things. Mm-hmm. To actually go to the food bank and you gotta figure out, so you have somebody who's experienced that, and you have somebody who didn't. The blending of those two together comes a complete whole and a balanced perspective. And this is what God wants us to do. More direct labor. The more direct our labor for our fellow men, the greater work will be accomplished. You must come close to those from whom you labor, that they may not only hear your voice, but shake your hand. Learn your principles and realize your sympathy. I mean, this is powerful right here, because a lot of times, one minister was telling me, he goes, we as Adventists like to give away books all the time. Books. He goes, sometimes that's inappropriate. But he goes, but it reminds me of and I said, I'm going to take this story. He said, it reminds me of a parent giving their kids toys because they don't want to spend time with them. And I was like, whoa, okay, all right, brother. And that's what it's about. We need to come close to people. Jesus came close, like we were talking about this morning, how, he didn't, when you said he touched the lepers, with no mask on or no scrubbing, he just went and touched the lepers and that's powerful. That's powerful. So, it wasn't the elbow. It wasn't the Cornova elbow bump. You want to read this for us?
More direct labor. The more direct our labor for our fellow men, the greater good will be accomplished. You must come close to those for whom you labor, that they may not only hear your voice. Many can be reached only through acts of disinterested kindness. Their physical wants must first be relieved. As they see evidence of our unselfish love, it will be easier for them to believe in the love of Christ.
I like that, disinterested kindness. And when I thought about that, I said, disinterested kindness. Sometimes we do things, we were helped out in an event, and they did a health class, and it was all about health. And then after they were done, they had like a 30-minute infomercial why you need to come to our church. And I said, is that following Christ's method, number one? And is that disinterested service? I'm going to do good to you, and I don't want nothing in return. The Bible says, give and expect nothing in return. But we want to give, and we got like 28 hooks in what that give, and we want to drag you to the church. And these are the statistics. 70% of people in this world is not walking into a church no matter what denomination. That's based off of a survey, a guy who does Simple Church. And he has a ministry just dealing with small home churches. 70% of the people are not stepping into a church. So you have what? 43,000 different Christian denominations competing for 30% of the people. To me, that's not a good business plan. So what we do in our restaurant, we focus on this 70% that's never going to step into a foot in the church, which is not a lot of competition because nobody's focusing on them, right? So you go in there, so we're using the right arm of the gospel, which is the health message. So these quotes that we're doing, this is things that we've applied to our ministry. Direct labor, shaking their hands, sitting in their living rooms, talking about their problem, sympathizing with what's going on. I did a health consultation just last week, sitting with somebody. We did a health consultation. It was a mother and daughter. They were starting the program. I said, okay, let's pray. We prayed. And as we were leaving, the daughter, she heard something in my presentation as we were talking. And she goes, well, what do you do when you don't really want to forgive somebody? And I said, funny you asked that question. So guess what? Now we're talking about unforgiveness. It was a Bible question. And so now we have a Bible study. Amen. And we're studying the Bible, and guess what's happening on Sunday? Now that they're doing it, because I did a mother and her daughter, so guess what's happening on Sunday? Being that as we're interacting with them, and I see that she still needs more, I said, we're going to set up a women's Bible study, and the women are going to come and study with you from this local church, and we're going to explore this a little bit deeper. Would you be interested? Oh, yeah, I can't wait. So she's excited. So we had a Bible study Sunday, a women's Bible study with somebody who's not an Adventist. And this was using the health message. And this is being disinterested. Disinterested service. So, another principle that we do. Now, this is the question. Should business and ministry be separate? It's amazing. Let's read this. God has given to every man a work to do in his connection with his kingdom. Each one professing the name of Christ is to be an interested worker, ready to defend the principles of righteousness. The work of the gospel is not to depend solely upon the ministers. Every soul should take an active part in advancing the cause of God. But instead of this, how many in our large and small churches come and go like a door upon its hinges, feeling no responsibility for the progress of the work, no interest in the salvation of souls for whom Christ has died. They do not dream of weaving the religion into their business. They say religion is religion and business is business. They believe each has its proper sphere, but let them be separated. But whatever calling the Christians are found, he has his work to do for the Lord in representing Christ into the world. And this is what I highlighted. Whatever may be our occupation, we are to be missionaries having our chief aim the winning of souls to Christ. What does it mean is chief? That's the main goal. So God's like, well, Lord, bless me with this job, and I'm making 6 figures, and you think, did God put you there to make 6 figures? Yeah, yes, that's a part of the blessing, but he wants you to be chief aim the salvation of souls. There may be a CEO that means the love of Christ. So our chief aim is the salvation of souls. So if we're doing restaurant work, if we're doing window washing, if we're doing, you may be humming a hymn while you washing that window, and you're singing it out. They'd be like, what song is that? Oh, since you ask. And just, I call it bait. I throw bait out there all the time. I just throw bait. How are you doing? Well, how was your weekend? My weekend was great. Like, what did you do? Well, I went to church and we had a powerful sermon. And then I went to the park and, so I got a hook in there, so whether or not, and then I went to the park and we visited nature and then we did something else. And now I have 3 different things that conversation can go to, right? He can ask, well, what park did you go to? Then I'm going this way. Or he can say, well, tell me about that sermon that you taught. Oh, since you asked. Now I'm going, oh, he was talking about the love of Christ and da-da-da-da-da. And you kind of pack off him. And you just let him. You throw another hook out there. And all of a sudden, you're just reeling it. And all of a sudden, you got a Bible study. You're sitting right there having a Bible study. And the Lord has allowed me to master that over 4 years at the restaurant. So anyway. What do you guys think about that? Our chief aim. I'm sorry? That's right. That's right. Whatever be our occupation, we are to be missionaries, having our chief aim the winning of souls to Christ. This is our primary aim as disciples of God, especially as we're living in these last times. And so I like very simple language, right? They say when Christ spoke, he spoke with such simplicity that even the children understood. So these are two nouns, a giver or a taker. So what is a giver?
someone who devotes himself completely. There's no greater givers than those who give themselves. And a taker is a person who takes a specified thing.
So giver or taker, right? So I look at, I was doing a marketing class at agriculture, and I brought these terms, and I said, you know, somebody who's a giver, or somebody who's a taker says, you know what, I'm going to do as much as, just as little as I can to get some, just get back something, right? So I'm growing this beautiful produce, I'm taking the money, and I'm going back, not forgetting our chief aim is for the salvation of souls. You're trying to make money. And a giver is somebody who adds value. And they say, well, they're looking at me, okay, so how do you add value? Like, when you go, how do you add value, right? This was Zig Ziglar said. Anybody heard of Zig Ziglar? Zig Ziglar? You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough people get what they want. So adding value. You have to fight me and my wife to add value. We go to places, and we have a family who literally got to hide their broom and their rags when we go there. We go there, we're eating, and we're like, how can we help? How can we add value? Because the taker will come in there, eat all the food. You know, I got 5 kids. We become a locust. We can be a locust, eat all the food, and just walk out the door. We leave a mess. But that's not adding value. We go there. We bring food to the potluck. We help clean up. So when we leave, it's more of, man, I want to invite these people back, versus, man, that was a locust. Don't want to invite them back. You get what I'm saying? So how do we add value? Even to our community. You know, something we do with the 10-day challenge, we talk about adding value. We have community events. We do cooking classes. We do starting a community garden. We're doing a lot of things and add value to the community. So one of the things, we see a problem in our healthcare system. You want to comment on these things about adding value?
I had something, but it left me.
Like
All right, it'll come back.
my wife is, you know, she can't, we like serving, you know, we just like doing it. So it's hard for us to come, even at a potluck, and not come in the back and try to help out in some way to help serve something. So, yeah, that was very difficult for us just to sit down, and so I guess we needed it. I don't know. But one of the things we see about the U.S. healthcare system, and this is a problem. You know, I teach our early teens class in our Sabbath school, and it's like a mini medical missionary training. They don't know it. But one thing we talked about was entrepreneurs. There's a difference between what is an entrepreneur. We looked at the definition, and it was more of owning your own business, making your own money. But I said we're going to change that. That's an earthly entrepreneur. We want to be a heavenly entrepreneur. And a heavenly entrepreneur adds value no matter where they go. And we looked at the story of Joseph. Joseph was in a very difficult position, and he went to Egypt. And he could have been like, oh, woe is me, da-da-da-da-da. He could have said, well, I'm a slave. You just tell me what to do, and I'm just going to do it. No, he was in Potiphar's house. He saw there was a problem, and he fixed it. Say, Potiphar, man, listen, if you just do this will work a lot better. And he did, and like, wow, that works good. And he tried to add value until the point, he's like, man, this dude is so valuable, I'm going to exalt him up to second in command. And I telling his youth, no matter where you go, you are building a resume. So if you go over here a week, and you sit there and you just lay in the bed and you make a mess, you building a resume, all right? So when people call and say, "Can I invite him to my man?" That dude ain't gonna clean up. He's a mess. Or you go there and you add value. Hey, I see the grass need to cut. Can I cut that grass for you? Hey, can I do this? And then when you leave, they're like, "Man, that was such a blessing." And you do that over and over again, and you say, "Well, I don't have a job, but here's some references for you. You can call them." And all of a sudden they're calling, because they're looking for experience. I don't have any experience, but here's some references. They call the references. Man, that's the hardest working boy I've ever seen. Man, that was it. And then now you have a resume. So no matter where you go, what you do, you're building a resume. And I tell the youth that. So we see a problem. Heavenly entrepreneurs see a problem, and they have a solution. So we see the U.S. healthcare ranked in 11 most industrialized nations. Where do you think the United States lands? 7. I hear 7. Any other? I hear 11. Yeah. We see Australia, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway tied for 7 and 8, France, Canada, United States coming in dead last in overall industrialized nations, U.S. healthcare rank. So here's an article, U.S. healthcare ranked worst in the developed world. U.S. ranks worst 11 nations in terms of efficiency, equity, and outcomes, having the world's despite
expensive.
having the world's most expensive healthcare system. I remember when whoever care, Obamacare, whoever, it's expensive. And they came out, and I was like, man, who can afford healthcare, man? This is ridiculous. And it's like, it's so expensive, but yet you look at the chart down here at the bottom, efficiency, equity, and healthy lives mainly, we rank dead last, United States. So this is a problem. We rank dead last in healthy lives. People are spending the most, but in terms of people are not healthy. And we see that chronic conditions are going up. Now, the Bible talks about this. Y'all, we might need to start, and this is something that we can do as this coronavirus starts coming out. You can pull up Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. And that word pestilence, it means diseases. Disease. So, the disease is going to come out, viruses, flus, coronavirus. Oh man, it's going to, the Bible talks about that. Really? Matthew 24:7 talks about disease is going to be on the increase. And these are hooks, man. Use what's going on. Yeah, I'm not getting all fearful, but I can use these people to talk to people to bring them to Christ, point them to Christ. And so we see the increase of rates of chronic disease. This is going from 2001, 2010, 2020, and it's projecting out to all the way 2039. And we see it's constantly going up. This is a problem in our society. So where's the solution? Where are the Adventists at with the solution in God's health message? People are seeing it. Thomas Edison, the doctor of the future, get no medicine. Which doctor gives no medicine? But will interest his patients in the care of the human frame and in diet and prevention of disease. So Thomas Edison, the guy who created the light bulb, he says, man, technology is going to be such at a point where they're going to know the body so much and what to give it and what not to give it. But yet, everybody's on medication. Everybody's on medication. Prevention is better than cure. You want to tell a story about Amanda Lanier?
So in our, when we first, God had given us, you want me to go for 10 days?
Yeah.
So when we started to figure out ways, when we took over the restaurant, how to implement health and educate the community, we came up with a 10-day health challenge where we put people on a plant-based diet for 10 days. And one of our first participants was a lady by the name of Amanda, who had stage 4 colon cancer. And she changed her diet. She went on a very strenuous protocol to try to reverse it.
Gershon therapy.
Called the Gershon therapy. And then it was just a lot for her in the stage that she was at. And she ended up going back to old habits and eventually succumbed to the disease. But we had a worker with us, a volunteer that was kind of like her. She was working with her day in and day out, just mentoring to her, just doing the enemas with her, and just being that support system for her. No. Doing it. She was.
So part of the Gershon therapy, one of them is assisting. Yeah, she was assisting. One part of the protocol is do coffee enemas. And if you study cancer, glucose, any type of sugar, actually feed cancer cells. Mm-hmm. So they try to eliminate glucose in the system. Coffee enemas helps to do things. But that was just at the end. Oh, you can go ahead and finish.
Yeah, and so at the before she passed, she wanted the lady with us that was volunteering, her name was Bobby. She asked her to speak at her funeral, and she wanted she wanted her to give this message to her family and friends that prevention is so much better than trying to cure it once you already have it.
It's powerful. I mean, she worked with this lady for 6 months, became like a sister, and it was that disinterested service. Mm-hmm. She didn't have to do it. She wasn't getting paid. She was retired, and she felt the Lord was impressing her to help this lady out. And she did it, and then guess what? The Lord had elevated her. She was the keynote speaker at her funeral. It was thousands of people there, it was and good. She gave God's plan in health and saying prevention is better than cure. And we also had a guy recently. He was going to start a 10-day challenge. We did a health consultation. He had some plaque buildup, serious heart issues. I said, do you know if you start changing your diet within days, your arteries will start clearing up within days? And he's like, really? He said, well, I'm going to start it in a couple of weeks. He says, okay, get out your system. We circled the calendar, and we had a big kickoff meeting, and we had everybody there at the restaurant, And they wasn't there. So I sent a text message to him and his daughter, like, you guys going to make it? We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. So we start the meeting. As soon as I got to this slide, my phone was vibrating. I said, hold on a second. I looked at it. He goes, we won't be making it. My dad just had a massive heart attack, and we're rushing to the hospital. And he ended up dying. So when missionaries are training with us, I said, listen, this health consultation is not just, hey, you got some high blood pressure and have fun with it. This could literally be their last chance before they succumb to the disease. So we need to be incredibly locked in, incredibly looking for ways to connect folks to Christ as we're doing these health consultations. And it's amazing because I used to train salespeople in the corporate world. So I extrapolate what I learned in corporate and put it in the medical missionary to the structure of how to run just what we used to do sales call, but this is how I do the health consultation. And it works, it translates beautifully. And the close rates are very high, 95% close rates, because everybody's sick. If you have any type of lifestyle disease, there's no reason for you not to sign up for the program. There's literally no reason. So, but we know that the original diet is fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains, right? We know that. I'm speaking to the choir. And I remember I was at a convention. So we had a guy on a 10-day challenge. We've been delivering food to this guy for like 3 years. So he has this big old building supply company. And he says, come to this convention. I want you to set up a table. And I'm like, so everybody's selling hammers and nails and things. He sets me up in the middle of the place. And all I got is a couple health books, and I got flyers on the 10-day challenge. And he goes, just tell him. So I'm next to the guy who's got these fancy drills and ladders, and here I am in the middle. They're like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here selling God's plan. And I kind of say, if you want to be effective as you do in your contractor work, you need to get healthy, right? But this one guy was like, he was a Christian guy. He told me, he said, I'm a Christian, I believe the Bible. But he goes, we're going to die anyway. What's the point? He said, I might as well die happy eating my steak, and what's the point? And he was like making up this big argument, and then he was talking real loud, so people started gathering up. So I let them go a little bit, That's what Jesus do, Jesus just wait till the crowd get real bigger, and then you hit them. So the crowd was getting bigger, and I was like, he said, so what do you say to that? I said, you're a believer, right? You believe the Bible? I do. I said, what does the Bible say about that? And I went to Ecclesiastes 7:17, and I said, be that thou overcome wicked, neither thou be foolish. I said, God is asking you the question, why shouldn't you die? And he looked at me, and it was funny. So in sales, it's like they got this saying, it's like the first person who speaks loses, right? First person who speaks loses. So I said that, and I just stared at him. And you could tell he was like, and he's like, you got me. I said, what do you mean I got you? I said, you got me, fine. I'll sign up for the program. I said, no, I'm not trying to. I don't want to force you to do the program. But he's like, I get it. He goes, I get it. I don't want to die before my time. And this is what God is telling us. I told him, and then I said, no, before I had the word of silence, I said, God may have created you to reach somebody when you're 90, but your lifestyle choices put you in the grave at 60. And he looked at me, and that's when he's like, okay, you got me. But God knows. He says, I wish above all things thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as soul prospers. Now, we may know this verse, but the vast majority of the Christian world has no clue that health is even in the Bible. When I bring this verse, it says health in the Bible? Yes. I said, God wants you to be healthy. It's a non-denominational message. Amen. We have done 10-day challenge in Pentecostal churches, in Baptist churches. It's a non-denominational message. God wants you to be healthy. So when you go on and as you're doing your outreach, God wants you to be healthy. This is our, and we believe as a church that God wants you to be healthy. Amen. And that's what we say at the restaurant. God wants us to be healthy. So I know almost every pastor in town. They come into the restaurant in the morning to talk Bible. They come in the morning just to eat breakfast. They don't really want nothing to eat, but they say, hey, man, I'm thinking about preaching on this sermon. What do you think? And we started, and I stayed and one brother, he's like, this is what he told me. He's pastor of a big Baptist church in not the town next door. He goes, I like talking to the Bible with you. I said, why? He said, because you're not trying to convert me. I said, what do you mean? He said, every time I tell somebody I'm a Baptist, they're trying to tell me why I need to be a Methodist or why I need to be a Presbyterian. And nobody just can't sit and just have a conversation about Bible. He goes, but I know we disagree in something, but I just can't figure out what it is quite yet. So it's like, and you have to be disciplined to stay what you have in common and just kind of expand on certain things. Right? Just expand a little bit. Hey, have you ever considered this? Hey, what about that? Really, the Bible says that? And we had some pretty powerful, and personal development. We talked about that, and he had Brother Garfield had said this in the morning, right? Not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together as a manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. We see what's going on in this world. We had a brother who took this verse in our church and said, you know what, we need to go house to house and start doing Bible studies. He said, we just too informal as a church. We need to go. So he started organizing. So every other week, we go to somebody's house and we start studying the Bible. And we get sharper and sharper and sharper. And this is part of self-development, because you can be studying by yourself, which is great. Personal Bible study is vitally important, but you may come across something and you think that may be true, or you think it, but if you get around other people and you're like, well, maybe that's not quite true. And God kind of just uses iron to sharpen iron. So it's very important to get together to study. This is a slide. I think it's powerful. So we know the Sunday law is coming, right? Okay, check this out. At Avondale School, near Cornwall, Australia, the Sunday law question came up for decision. It seems as if the lines were soon to be drawn so tightly about us that we should not be able to work during Sunday. People think Sunday law is something happening in the future, but it actually happened back in Ellen White's time. It says, our school was situated in the heart of the woods, far from any village or station. No one was living near enough for us to be disturbed in any way by anything we might do. Nevertheless, we were watched. The officers were urged to come around to inspect our premises, and they did come. They could have seen many things if they desired to prosecute us, but they did not appear to notice those who were at work. They had so much what? Confidence in us as a people, and so great respect for us on account of the work we had done in that community, that they believed that they can trust us anywhere. So Sunday law question came up. Laws was being enforced. They said, leave those people alone. Leave them alone. They help my fill in the blank. You helped my grandmother reverse her diabetes. You came and painted my house when nobody was there. You helped me move. Simple acts of kindness like that will go a long way. So we're literally investing or adding to the bank good works, right? Whatsoever man soweth, he shall undoubtedly reap. We're doing it not to do it, as a fearful thing and trying to, no, we're doing it because the love of God is perfected in us, and we want to help our brother out. Amen. So a little bit about the Vineyard. We did our first 10-day challenge. I'll tell you about the first 10-day challenge we did, and maybe we can get some ideas for you guys as a congregation. We started a restaurant. We went full blow into it. I left corporate America, and I said, we're going to try this thing out. I'm taking all this skill. I'm tired of making other people money. Let's. And we started, and I was like, okay, I need to market. How do I market? So I'm looking at all these marketing strategies, and I was praying, Lord, just say, do my work, and you get all the marketing you need. I said, okay. So I started just writing down ideas, and I had like little brainstorming sessions with people to write down ideas. And then the idea from Bobby came up. She said, well, it'd be cool if we can just give people like healthy food for like 10 days or so, and maybe that will, let's see what happens. And she just had that idea, and then she kind of went to something else, and I wrote that down, I circled it. Because at that time, I was telling you, I was studying Volume 7, Testimonies to the Church, and it talked about, you had to really, really look in between the lines, but it talked about packaging meals for Friday and for Saturday. So I'm like, this seemed like to me they got meals every single day. So that was already percolating on my mind. And so we decided to do a 10-day challenge. We decided to do a 10-day challenge, went to our church, and we said, hey, this is our idea. We want to put people on a plant-based diet for 10 days. And they said, well, how's it going to work? I said, well, we're going to take their bio meals before and after. We're going to give them healthy food for 10 days, and we're going to see what happens. So our church got on board. They said, well, and I said, well, how can we promote this? I said, well, you guys have been talking about doing a health expo. So how about we do a health expo, and then we have a saying in corporate world, they call them WIFM, what's in it for me, right? So we can say, okay, people who come, they can register to win a free spot in our next 10-day health challenge. So in our town of 4,000 people, we had 100 and something people come out to the health expo. We had about 60-something people sign up and said they want to take part in this first 10-day health challenge. So we had a problem on our hands.
Because we had slots for
10?
15.
Yeah, 15 people. So we worked out something with our church, and we said, okay, this is our cost, and we just worked out a deal where we can sponsor these people. So to figure the first 10-day health challenge. And so the goal was to find 15 people in the community to take part in a free 10-day plant-based diet, at the same time educating them on God's 8 laws of health. We decided to put on the health fair and have people fill out a form and write down why they should be selected to participate in this health challenge. So people would just say, I want to be healthy. No, that ain't make the list. But we got people who say, they write a paragraph and they turn the page on, they write all this stuff. We're like, man, this lady took the time to write 3 pages of stuff. She's going to be a part of it, and she's going to take it seriously. So we found 15 people.
And then also in the selection, we also used, there were some people in the community, high up officials that were in the list that was trying to do it. So it was like, okay, we can get their influence in the community. That could be beneficial also. And that actually helped us further down the line too, as well.
That's a good point. That was very strategic. We got very, influential people. Lady who ran all of downtown of our city. Oh, she go, I may be interested. You're in, because this was just a stepping stone, because you want to be strategic, and we just made it a very, very balanced class. So we went out to the community to personally invite people. So it's different to go and knock on the door and say, hey, would you like to take a health survey? It could be difficult, because now you're getting this information that may not be as accurate, because they just may be saying anything to get you off their porch. But now we're adding value to the community right now. This is what I'm talking about, adding value. So we're going out there, we're providing a health expo, and we're going to be going over things that can help you reverse chronic lifestyle disease. Do you or anybody know do you know anybody who's suffering with diabetes, high blood pressure? Everybody knows somebody who's suffering with these things. Yes, I do. It's me, myself. Well, if you come to the Health Expo, not only you can register for a chance to be a part of this 10-day challenge, but you're going to learn principles that you can apply to your life the next day. Would that be of interest to you? Absolutely. Okay. And then you just kind of, and then they come. I mean, it just was that. So they went, and we actually brought in Meat Ministry. So we called Dr. Jackson and said, bring some missionaries out here to help promote this thing. So we brought a team of missionaries out there, and they went door to door, helped us out. I think we had like 30 or 40 people go out in the community on one Sabbath afternoon. We serious. Like, you come get us. I'm telling you, we don't mess around. So we go. Anyway, so we brought in a missionary. We went door to door, and again, we had a bunch of people come out. So this is our health expo. This is my wife. She's having a good old time. But this is a health expo. We did it in a nice facility. It used to be an old train depot, and it was packed. So this is what we did. So this is a result from the health fair. Over 50 people filled out the form to take part in the program. With much prayer, we selected the 15 participants and brought them in 2 days before to start the program to get their blood pressure, cholesterol, height, weight. By the way, the Lord sent someone to the restaurant, and they volunteered us to do the testing. Now, being that we were doing it with the conference, they said in order for us to take people's blood pressure and glucose, there had to be some liability insurance. We had some people in our board that wanted to be to the line, to the T, and we understand that. So we couldn't do certain things. We're like, man, we're not going to be able to take their blood cholesterol and things unless we find somebody who has like $3 million in liability insurance. Like, who has this stuff, right? But the Lord sent somebody to the restaurant. And we were like praying, like, Lord, please. And then somebody came in, it's like, we told them what we're doing. She's like, hey, do you need somebody to check your cholesterol and stuff? I was like, can you do that? She go, yeah. She go, yeah, yeah. And I said, we need somebody with this type of insurance. She goes, I got that. That's no problem. So she came, and this is her and her daughter. And so she's a nurse practitioner. Her husband was also an RN. And they came and did the blood pressure for us. So this is what our bags look like. So they'll get their food. They get 2 meals a day, which is lunch and dinner. We'll throw little Bible verses in there for encouragement. They get an email every single day with a Bible verse and encouragement, videos. They also, what else they get? They get a bunch of stuff. The juices. So, and this is one of the things that we did. And we also do scheduled walks with them. So this whole program is about building relationships with people. So we deliver the food daily. They see us every single day, or they pick it up. We do scheduled walks. So we go out and we go exercise together. And guess what? We're walking up, down in the thing. It's like, hey, how's it going? How's your family going? Da-da-da. Now you're getting to know each other. And then now you're like, man, this Adventist ain't, this is a dude they're not involved in the cult. These are nice people I ever met in my life. We got an email after we did the 10-day challenge. We got an email. One lady went through the program. She goes, my neighbor's selling their house. And I want you to forward this email to all your Adventist friends, because I want a Seventh-day Adventist as my neighbor.
She's non-Adventist.
And she's not Adventist. She goes, every Seventh-day Adventist I met has been the nice people in the world, so I want them as my neighbor. She sent an email. She goes, the house is not even on the market yet. I was like, wow. So I was like, look at this, y'all. This is what happens when you do God's plan. Yeah, this Mike, Mike is not having a good time. So you want to speak to any of this? Okay.
This is Amanda, the lady we was talking about with the stage 4 colon cancer.
Let's see here.
Earlier.
Yeah, she was just a very, very powerful testimony that she came and gave at our church. So she's part of the program. We've had people come and, just powerful program. So we do four health lections.
To go back to this, when she spoke at the church, she's non-Adventist.
Oh, yeah.
To bring a point to this, we had somebody in our program that was going through the 10-day challenge, but she had a friend that was Adventist. And she was trying to encourage her to come to church for about 4 years. And he said, she came to us afterwards, she was like, it took me 4 years to try to get her to step into a Seventh-day Adventist church. And said, it only took y'all about 5 days. And it was the health message that brought her in.
I knew the health message was going to get him. That's what she told us. And that's what got her, the health message. She actually came to church. She said, she sent the message to us like, hey, I'm visiting a Seventh-day Adventist church. And the lady said, oh, well, I fell off my chair. I couldn't believe this came from this lady. Because she'd been inviting her for like 4 or 5 years. She never would come. So we do 4 health lectures, a kickoff meeting. We have a dinner with the doctor or some physician. And then we do a cooking class. And then we do a graduation. And in between those 10 days, we also take people to the grocery store, teach them how to shop. We do in-home cooking classes. We do in-home education. And we just come close to people. Sometimes there'll be an opportunity for Christian help work. We see somebody who needs their gutters cleaned out. We go clean their gutters out. Their yard needs to be cut. We go cut their grass. So this is all about of building relationships in the community. And this is the work. And we do cooking classes. So this is the overall stats for our first 10-day challenge. We had total loss of 49.4 pounds in the group. Everyone's blood pressure improved, and 4 people moved out of the high blood pressure zone. Everyone's cholesterol is now in a normal range, except one person now 19 points away after dropping 7 points on the program. Altogether, we dropped a total of 312 points in cholesterol. One participant decreased their cholesterol by 93 points. And this was a 10-day. And this one lady, she goes, man, I ate more food than I ever ate in my life. And I lost 7 pounds. Like, how did that happen? So it's just amazing. This is one lady. I've learned so much in these 10 days. This is after our first 10-day challenge. Thank you so much for sharing information. My blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight improved, and I met some of the nicest people. God is so good. Thank you. The Vineyard Vegetarian Cafe, the Somerville Seventh-day Adventist Church, Pastor Scorch, Robin, Roberta, the McClovers, Living Proof, and Parable Gardens for all your work on the 10-day challenge. My life has changed forever, and I look forward to continue a relationship with you. This one lady, this is her name is Deborah, and we're like, we told her, say, hey, we're having a cooking class next month. If you can come if you like. And she looked at me like she was offended. And I was like, what? She goes, there's nothing you guys put on that I'm not coming to. Just like that. I said, you gave me 15 years of my life. And this lady, 4 years ago, she 4 years, she's still on the journey. She's read she's read Counsels of Health, she read Counsel of Diet and Food, she read Ministry of Healing. And I was like, Lord, why? I was struggling with this. I'm like, Lord, why is she not coming into the church? Why? And the Lord showed me a couple quotes. The Lord does not now send many into the church because the church members are unconverted. That was one. And then the other one was, the Lord said he was still using her to be a light in her church. So she went to her church, and guess what? She telling everybody what happened, and guess what? She said, come on in and do a 10-day challenge at our Baptist church. So the Lord used her to bring us into a Baptist church. And they all know we're Seventh-day Adventists. We just did a 10-day challenge at a Pentecostal church. I speak to the pastor daily. He knows I'm Seventh-day Adventist. But yeah, he invited me into a church to do the program. And why? Is because of the health message, bring down the walls of prejudice. This is what happened. So veggie diet, a success. So after we did our first 10-day challenge, that thing was so exhausting, we said, we're never doing it again. You understand, the devil was coming at us in every direction. It was a point that we couldn't buy groceries. We were like, man, and then our air conditioning broke at the restaurant. In the middle of July. Then we had a lady's daughter disappeared during the program. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, all the stuff that was coming. So, I mean, literally when the air conditioning, so we had to get up early in the morning to get the food prepared and out before it's 90-something degrees on the thermostat in this kitchen. And we're like, mercy, Lord. And then the day the air conditioning guy came up, we were sitting in the front. We're like, praise the Lord, the air conditioning guy. As soon as he put the car in park, the whole power in the block went out. Boom! I literally started crying and got on my knees like, Lord, we need to pray. He was like, we need to pray. I was like, this is intense. Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, so when we literally do, as the air conditioning guy came, he put the car in park and the whole power on the block went out. Boom, just like that. And we were like, what is going outside? The whole power on our side of the block was out. So I'm like, we got to pray. And we just literally got on our knees crying and just praying like, Lord, help us out through this 10-day challenge. And we were done. And we saw the great results. We had videos and people were just excited. We shut the door and we just kind of just like fell on the ground. We're like, we're never doing that again. Never, right? So, but then we didn't know that the people in the 10-day went to the newspaper. And it's like, you need to go interview them. They're doing some good stuff at the restaurant. So they came to the restaurant and we're like, okay. And they're like, so a group of vegetarian restaurant in downtown Somerville gave a 10-day health challenge, provided meals to a group of interest participants. The group lost almost 50 pounds during that span from left and to the people. And it talks about, some of the results. People, great, whatever. So we're like, great, they wrote an article, whoop-de-doo, we just like moving on, like never doing that again. So the phone starts ringing. When do you guys do your next 10-day challenge? We're like, oh, that was a one-time thing. We may do that, maybe next year. And they were like, okay, well, if you ever do it again, we're just taking people's information. And then we're like, I don't know what these people are talking about. I ain't doing that again. And then our neighbor comes in, of all people. So our neighbor comes in. She comes in and she goes, I did not know a plant-based diet can do all that stuff. She goes, I have diverticulitis. And she goes, I can't even go to church because I'm running to the bathroom. He goes, if I don't find a solution for this, I just want to die, was her exact words. You sure you're not having another 10-day health challenge? So I looked at my wife. We looked at the calendar and said, we can do one. We can start one next Thursday. So we're like, oh, okay. And as soon as we did that, the class filled up, and we've been doing 10-day challenges every month. Except December, because nobody wants to be healthy in December. So that's the only month we don't do a 10-day health challenge. We tried to do one year, and it's like, I cheated. I cheated. It was like corporate, they got a Christmas party and da-da-da. So we're like, we've been doing it ever since. So we've worked with 500-600 people. And it's just me and my wife, one employee. And work with, now if you imagine, and I always said the Bible says one could put 1,000 to flight, but two would put 10,000 to flight. So the Lord has impressed us this year specifically to share what we've been doing. So we've created a manual for the people who are going through the 10-day challenge, because I literally, being my wife for 4 years, kind of worked the kinks out this program. And so we know what foods to give that people like, that's palatable, and still have the healing effect, and not being straight salad. I tell people, I can give you salad for 10 days, and I'm sure you feel better and you lose some weight, but you're going to be miserable. And as soon as you break out of the chains of the 10-day challenge, you run to the first fast food restaurant with some flavor. And I said, so we give you foods that you're comfortable with. Pot pie, mac and cheese, spaghetti and meatballs, things that they normally would eat and they're familiar with, especially in the South where we're at. And most people don't know kale. We know kale. Kale, what is kale? Down where we're at is turnip greens and collard greens, pinto beans, cornbread, and whatever meat you want to put on it. I mean, but you're talking about kale. What's kale, So we're getting very dynamic with that. So this video don't work, but this is one of our ladies who actually did the 10-day challenge. If you want to go to our Facebook page, you can see the video. This is a lady, the only video we got on the 10-day challenge. She was the first participant, and she just was amazed. We had one lady, 25 years on blood pressure medication. 25 years on blood pressure medication. Went through the 10-day challenge, and she said, I'm going to continue this program, continue what we're doing for another 8 days till she go to her doctor. So she just we gave her a meal plan and everything, and she went through it, and she sent us an email back saying, my doctor called and said, my good cholesterol outweighed my bad cholesterol so much that she took me off of medication. And then guess what? You have these relationships for life.
And it's, to end on that, relationships for life, with this 10-day, the people that volunteer their services to do the testing for us, this was 4 years ago. We got an email the other day from somebody that was just on Facebook watching the conversation from this individual. And they said...
Who happened to be Adventist?
He wasn't Adventist.
No,
The lady was watching it was Adventist. Saw her and it was like, they're asking questions about health. Is there any church that emphasize health? And through it...
I'll read you what, so I'm just pulling it up. And this is a question that they asked to the group. Are the Adventists the only denomination that has focused on health and the understanding of responsibility that comes with that? Or is this just a topic, a huge need in all the churches today? Or do you think just do whatever you're and pray about it? I feel that there is a huge need across most churches in our area. Do you think this would be welcomed and or accepted in our church? Talking about the health message. It's like crazy you mentioned this. Me and my coworker was talking about a Seventh-day Adventist yesterday to say they seem to be the only denomination that has it right as far as diet and health. I also think they hit the nail on the head when it comes to biblical interpretation of the state of the dead and hell. Check it out for yourself. This is all happening unbeknownst to us. And the person who did this, who's the moderator of it, helped us out on our first 10-day challenge. And he knew we were at Seventh-day Adventists. So he's wondering why this is not in every church, because we came directly from the Bible. And we proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. He said, so this is another lady. I really believe the use of the animal products in our diet is the problem. I know meat tastes good, but it's not good for you. Adam and Eve did not eat meat. I think we can all benefit from the original diet that God gave us. I totally agree. Several things on this topic that I feel strongly about. One, the Bible says we are supposed to treat our body as a temple. Number two, gluttony is a sin. Third, and most importantly, point from the perspective of this, if you don't take care of yourself, how in the world can you be effectively used by God? If you are constantly tired, have memory problems, sick, or you can't walk to get around. I mean, not from an accident. Okay, how useful are you to God? You are merely an empty vessel in a sense because you are all, I don't know what's going on there. But this is the conversation. So it says, so far as I can tell, Seventh-day Adventists are the only real decent Protestant denomination left. Of all the official ones, the only one paying any attention anymore. I can't just get on board with the destruction, hellfire level of orthodoxy in the general. So there's some things that they misconceptions that we're going to get involved with. But this is the conversation that was happening because of a 10-day health challenge. Amen. So we can share more and more, but I want to open it up to questions, and we're here as long as you guys have questions for it.
So I heard you say you sponsored some for the initial one. Did you continue to do that, or is there a fee associated with it from the community?
So the first one we did, it was sponsored. But then it flew in our lap, and then we do charge a fee for people to go through it because we do believe that people need to invest in their health. Mm-hmm. So the first initial one was a joint project with the church, and that first test group was, yes, you're doing it for free, but we need a video, we need marketing material because we're going to use that to promote it was kind of a give and take. I need a video, blog, and all this different stuff. But moving forward, our church does sponsor 3 people a month to go through the program. So they said, hey, they saw the benefits of the program. Hey, you find 3 people who wants to go through the program, you can sponsor them. So we don't just give it to anybody. It has to be somebody who can't afford it, who's having, some health challenges or whatever, and we get the commitment before them that they want to do the program. And most times we ask them to invest something, whether it's $10 or $20 or $1, because we want them to have something in the game, some skin in the game.
We found that if we give it away totally free, they're not really as committed as they were.
So we don't even waste our time. If they're not going, we don't even waste our time. Because I tell people, I said, when you sign up for this program, you're going to get everything we got. Mm-hmm. So if you're not going to reciprocate it, I best that you don't, because I don't want to be giving you everything I got. I mean, I'm waking up 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure people get their food, right? I got to be to work at 4. And I said, okay, you're getting my food. I'll be there at 3:30. So this is what we're bringing to the program. But if you're saying, well, I don't want to really drink water, well, you're not ready for it. You come back when you're ready. Mm-hmm. So there's some things, but to answer your question, both. Any other questions?
How busy are you? Oh, sorry. How big, tell me if I'm wrong, did I hear you say you have it every month, the 10-day challenge?
We used to have one class a month, but the demand, and we had it at our restaurant, but the demand for delivery service actually grew. I didn't know what the Lord was pushing us into, but this was about 3 years ago. Because we cater, we have a relationship with all the plant-based doctors in our area. We need to know if you believe in health, we need to work together in some way. Whether you're Adventist or not, we agree on that point. So we started working, we were delivering, we actually catered an event at a doctor's office. And she was telling me about one of her patients, and he's having serious heart issues. And she said, could you meet him? So I sat down with him. I didn't know this guy was very wealthy at the time. But I sit down next to him, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, well, I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to say to this guy? I'm just sitting there, and all it was a challenge. So I just looked at him and say, hey, you can die tomorrow. Just straight up. And he's like, what did you just say to me? It's the first word to come out your mouth. And I said, well, your doctors told me your chart. You have 4 stents in your heart, quadruple bypass twice. They say you should have died on the table, and you're still doing the same things you did before. I said, you can die tomorrow. And he goes, well, I'm ready to make some changes. I say, everybody ready to make changes, you tell them they got to put something down. And he goes, no, I'm ready. He goes, and I started talking about a plant-based diet. He goes, somebody tried to put me on a plant-based diet, and man, that stuff. He said, I might as well go in one of my warehouses and start chewing on the pallet. This was his exact words. What was his exact words? And I was like, and the doc heard, she's like, well, we did vegetable lasagna. We catered vegetable lasagna. And she said, well, taste this. This is really good. So he started tasting. He's like, all right. He said, if it tastes like this, sign me up. So we signed him up for the program, and we did a health consultation. I went to his office, big old office. I didn't, I'm going there, and back in my old world. So I'm in corporate America. I'm going there and talking to him, and we're doing a health consultation. And I said, well, you got to come in the morning, get breakfast at the restaurant, and I'll give you lunch and dinner every single day. He says, okay. So this brother was driving an hour to our restaurant every single day. He was serious. But then it got to the point, he said, Gabriel, I can't come every single day. He said, there's a way you can deliver this for me. Now, I'm a sales guy. I said, hey, if you want to deliver this, man, I just threw a high price out there. Like maybe 5 times what it costs us to put somebody through a program. I figured we'd negotiate. He said, okay. He wrote a check. So I was like, well, I'm going to be driving. I'm delivering it right to you. No problem. I will drive to you, right? So they go through the program. So here go one. He's going through it. Guess what? 10 days, he was like, man, he started losing weight. He started feeling better. He said, sign me up for another 10 days. Write me another check. Sign me up for another 10 days. Write me another check. We're delivering this dude for 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, huh. And then one day, he's coming down. This guy used to be in the mob and everything. Anyway. But he goes, one day I'm delivering food. He says, Gabriel, I need you to follow me. I said, okay, where am I going? He said, follow me. I said, okay. So I get in my car. He's flying down the road. He takes me to this huge building. Literally parks on the sidewalk. I park in the visitor spot. He said, follow me. So I'm right on his heels. We go into this busy office building. He don't say nothing to nobody. And they're just looking at him. I'm like, I'm with him, right? And I'm just right behind him. And he takes me all the way up to the owner of the business. And he sits down, and he goes, tell him what we're doing. I said, we're doing God's plan. What is that? He's like, what is that God's plan? So I started explaining how the body's designed to heal itself, going through my sales pitch. And he was like, he's like, yeah, I don't. And if anybody have open heart surgery, they call it a zipper. They said, show you my zipper, because this looks like a zipper. And he's like, I said, I heard you got a zipper too. And so I'm messing. He goes, I don't know if I want to. I said, I heard you got a zipper. He said, yeah, and he showed me his zipper. And I'm like, you need to make some changes, man. And he goes, so the guy got frustrated. He's like, he stands up, big guy, you need to sign up for the program. And he gets up and leaves, right? So we sitting back and forth, and he like going back, and I was like, okay, fine, all right. I said, I'll tell you what. He says, man, can you do me he says, okay, I'm interested. How much does it cost? I said, I'll give you the same deal I gave Mickey. That was his name. The same deal, which is that high price. He's like, whoa, that's a lot of money. I said, okay, let's go to Atlanta. So I start there. I'm used to negotiate. Okay, let's go to this restaurant. Look what it costs for just a lentil burger. And you add that, I'm like, you're not even getting nowhere near my price. If we do that times the meals I'm giving you, I'm like, you be changing. And he's like, Oh, okay, how about this? I signed up both me and my wife. And I said, okay, don't tell Mickey. So I gave him a good deal, and still was huge. So guess what? I got three people on delivery, and I'm making a lot of money off these three people. And I'm like, and the Lord, and then it started expanding. So I'm delivering to two people, no problem, and then we went to another lady. She was another doctor referral, and she gave me the key to her house to put juices. She on a juice fast. She gave me the key to her house to put juices in her fridge when she wasn't there. Nice neighborhood. And I'm leaving, and one day, because I have my kids with me, I like to teach them about entrepreneurship. And she's like, wait, come on, have a seat. And I'm sitting down there, and we started talking, and there's an older lady, and she wanted to have a Bible lesson. She was asking me about Bible questions. So we had a Bible study. And I said, wow, it was a blessing. And the Lord put a quote in my mind and said, most people won't be reached unless you get into their homes. So this model started shifting from doing classes once a month to focusing on in-home. Because there's 70% of people who are not going to go to church. How are they going to be reached? How are we going to get in people's homes? Some of these places I got, they got a big old gate in the front that you got to be buzzed in. How in the world are you going to get in there? Cole Porter not jumping no fence with all these dogs to go knock on your door to get the message in. But guess what? Oh yeah, just come on in. I'm doing an in-home cooking class. And I hear I'm in the home. I'm taking over their TV. I'm sitting there, we sitting on the couch and we chatting for hours. And we're getting the gospel in reach.
You mentioned it to me, but you said you mentioned a couple of things. We spoke about one thing out there, okay? You remember?
Marketing.
It was about sport. You said you were going to talk about youth.
Oh, yes.
Okay, the other thing is, I forgot the other thing. I need you to mention it first. I remember.
So one of the things that we were talking about out there, going back to the testimony, we were talking about sports and athletes. And one particular chapter in the Great Controversy, as I was reading it, jumped out. It was called The Snares of Satan. And I don't know if every version of the Great Controversy, but there is a part of it that has Ellen White was allowed to see a meeting that the devil was having with his demons. And it was talking about, one of the sentences that jumped out with me, it says, keep the money out of God's people's hands. Or something to that effect, and saying if they have the money, they'll help to spread the gospel. And then I remembered in the sporting arena, they want you to get involved in different secret societies. My brother experienced that firsthand. They were trying to get him to join before he got a next big contract. So people don't realize how the devil has his hand in everything. If he's going to put you out there and to be out in front, there's some compromise that needs to take place. So it's I don't want to go into too much detail, but just know that the devil is behind a lot of these sporting events. And music, and any type of entertainment, and the Bible talks about do nothing with that strife or emulation, competition. God says He doesn't approve of these things. So even though I played football, I don't advocate it. Some people ask me, man, what advice would you give my son who wants to play football? I said, tell him to get an academic scholarship. Mike? Oh, we got a mic.
Okay, yes.
Oh, he got a question.
Yes, I have the mic. Okay, so y'all are here. I know, traditionally, and I still believe it's the case, that restaurant work is a lot of work, but yet you are going and doing 10-day health challenges. So is your restaurant still open, or how does that work?
So when we left, typically when we would leave town, for us to leave town and do a 10-day health challenge, it is a mess back home. We get calls, and it's like we're at two places at once. So when we decided to do this the 10-day challenge in Bristol, we actually closed. We strategically stopped all of our 10-day challenge and our meal plans before we left. So when we get back, we're going to have a big demand for 10-day challenge, just to say the least. So in our business model, and I think I was telling you, I said we're not to compete with the world. We're not to compete with TGI Fridays and all these other restaurants and their business model, because you're going to fail and you're going to lose. What we ought to do is present to the world something different. So we come in with a totally different business model. We're here to help you be well. So we're focusing more on the 10-day challenge because we see not only is there, in terms of a profit standpoint, the margins are better, and number two, we're able to minister to people at a more closer level than just saying, you know, they come in line, $7.50, $10, and they keep on going about their business. You know, so we want to focus more on this side of it, and we still open the restaurant up. We could have it open up if we wanted to, but it's too much with ordering food and things like that, and we just can't go to some of these food distributors and get some of the specialty stuff that we need. We need to be the one getting it, so it's very difficult for us to be gone and be open. Yeah.
Yes, I was on, but I'm not on. Okay. I was wondering, how much of a challenge is it to run a restaurant full-time and have 5 children? Because that's part of our past experience, and I would just like to understand how you all are doing it.
Yeah,
Please share.
5 kids alone is a challenge.
Even if you had 1, but you have
Yeah.
5, so
I think
how do you work that? And do you homeschool as well?
we do homeschool.
Uh-huh.
So with the restaurant, what we do, with the 10-day challenge in itself, most of the meals are prepared. Like our day is typically done by 8:30, because we get up early, we have the meals already cooked and packaged, and a lot of that is prepping some of the stuff the day before, so that way in the morning you're just throwing it together and packaging it. And by 8:30, no later than 9, he's out going to delivery. So, and then in that, we have downtime before the lunch rush. Between 9 and 11 is usually slow, so we can usually do homeschooling during that time. And we have a separate room in the restaurant for that. And some of the homeschooling is done hands-on, like they're helping out. Like my daughter, she doesn't really like math. Put her on the register. Help out in the kitchen. There's a lot of measurements going on in fractions in the kitchen. And they're learning service through that with helping out, building their home skills in the restaurant.
That's right. So it is a challenge,
And prayer.
and
'Cause
prayer helps
day
out.
by day.
And it's day by day, and it is a challenge, but we take it day by day. But it is a challenge, no question about it. So to answer your question, it's day by day. It's day by day. But the 10-day challenge, as we move into more of this model, we're looking to even cut back even more hours, because we want to focus more on the ministry side of it, and we see this is where it's going. And what we want to do is, because we have a model using agriculture, that's why we're at the Luke Fisher's farm over in Bristow. You know, we're taking agriculture directly from the garden, preparing meals, and watching people reverse disease. So this is the model that we want to propagate all over. Anybody who's willing to listen, because it's an incredible way to build relationships in the
And
community.
it's not a traditional restaurant too, where we're open like so many hours.
7 to 7:30, 6 days a week.
We're only open 7:30 to 2:30, but our town is not really a breakfast town. We just have it open for breakfast because we're there. And if
we're
they
there.
come in, they come in. They usually only just get smoothies and juices in the morning. It's usually our lunch rush that's pretty demanding.
Yeah.
And
And
we close at 2:30, and we're usually have the kids on board to, yeah, if y'all want to get out on time at 2:30, you got to help clean up, or we gonna be here longer. And if we're there, they know customers are still gonna come, whether the lights are on or not. The customers will still come. And so it's like, okay, as long as we're not there.
It's important to have the
Okay.
balance, just trying to have the balance, yes.
I know sometimes when you start something, the brunt of the work is pretty much you're the burden bearer. How much does the church actually help with the ministry?
And in what context?
Meaning, do they help with Bible studies? Do they support you with the 10-day program? Or is the brunt of the work pretty much, is it you and your family?
Yeah, not to speak against the church much, but it is a challenge. We try to encourage the church members to be a part of the 10-day challenge. We try to paint a picture. We do have Bible studies, contacts that we certainly can't keep up with. So the demand and the expectations, we're trying to balance that out. So to answer your question, we do have individuals in our church, maybe not the church in its whole, but we do have individuals in the church who does help out. And that's so technically the church does work. Now we've worked with our local conference. We work with almost every church in our area doing a 10-day challenge. I think, and you know, in college, anybody know Collegedale, this is like the Battle Creek there's like 40 churches within 30-mile radius. There's so many Adventist churches in that area. So we've worked with almost every church in some capacity in that area, except for the Japanese and Korean church and the Spanish churches. But yeah, so we do work with the church. We do work with a lot of different churches, with the conference, with different events. But in terms of individual, here's a Bible study contact. Could you reach out to them? They find it very difficult to transition. You got somebody who've been there from day one, who've done health consultations. They trust me a lot more than Sally, who they never met. So it's important for them to be a part of the program in the beginning.
Yeah, like
to be to the
going
meetings,
to the cooking classes.
helping them out at the grocery store, start building this relationship so it's a better, easier transition. So right now we're like, here's Bible study contacts. And I'm like, well, I call them, they don't know who I am. So now we're trying to encourage them to be a part of it from the beginning. So this is just growing. It's just growing. So we're trying to, we're just working in that direction. Any other questions? Well, I'm super excited that we were able to come. We've been doing this for 4 years, and we have not seen, the Bible says in Matthew 11 that my burden is easy, or something to that effect. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. So I'm like, if we're doing the Lord's work, yes, there's going to be challenges, but it shouldn't be incredibly difficult to do it. Because God knows that we do have jobs that we need to do. We need to take care of our families. God wants us to be balanced. So if we follow his method, Christ's method alone, using the health message as the right arm, there will be challenges, but it'll be a lot easier to reach people. And so this is what we're trying to promote. So if there's not any other questions, yes, sir.
In the back.
I was wondering, in terms of the busy schedule and life that you have, and one of the things that you mentioned this morning, when you receive the message, you go in with it, but the Lord says, hold up, where's your family?
Yes.
And you turn to your family.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, what method do you use to gauge how grounded or interested your kids are in the direction that you're going?
That's a good question. We like outreach, and our kids like outreach. So I remember my dad when I was little, and I didn't know it until I didn't realize until my dad relayed the story to me. Before we went to church every Sunday, my dad would take us to a nursing home as a little kid, and he would explain to us about this, how this is what the Bible requires of us, to go to visit the afflicted and the sick, and we would do that every Sunday. And as a young kid, it started to develop this spirit of, not thinking about yourself. And I didn't realize that, like, where do I get this burden for people? My dad relayed that to me, and it was cultivated when they were little. So when we go out and we do outreach, my kids like going door to door and start knocking on doors, passing out flyers, and it's cultivated when they're young. So how do I gauge that? They understand. Like we bring them, we do in-home cooking classes. Majority of the time, we bring our whole family. And it's like you bring what is it? What did we just say? A one well-ordered, well-disciplined family speaks more to Christianity than any sermon that can be preached. So you bring a family into their home. They're not tearing your house up. They're not throwing stuff down. They're sitting there. They're being polite. They're helping out in the kitchen. They said, "What in the world are you doing?" I mean, we had one out. We're doing one in-home cooking class. She goes, What is wrong with your kids? And I said, what? She goes, my kids are jumping off the wall. We said, do you homeschool? Yes, we do. And we started talking about true education. We talked about how schooling try to teach you what to think and not how to think. I said, so we on the thing of trying to teach our kids how to think. She's like, I always wanted to do homeschooling, and guess what? And they branched out into a whole homeschooling conversation. So, yeah, so our kids are pretty much on board with what we do. We call it a team, and we do outreach as a team.
Okay, I was from my agricultural side. I was wanting to ask, is all the produce that you guys get to make the food, is it from something that you grow, or is it something that you get from, is like organic only, or, you know, how do you?
We definitely do organically grown stuff. We try to grow as much as we can. That's why this whole Unity and Living Parables that tree that my wife had designed is showing that we try to do everything. We try to have a garden, we try to have a restaurant, we try to do medical missionary work, and it's like we can't do it all by ourselves. So we got to a point of, and now me and my wife, you tell us we can't do something, we gonna do it. You know, it's just our makeup. You tell them we can't do it, we gonna do it. But we realized we can't. Lord had to bring us to a point and say, you can't do all this by yourself. This is way too big. And I think a lot of ministries get in trouble when they say, I'm gonna do the restaurant, I'm gonna do the treatment room, I'm gonna do the sanitarium, and I'm gonna have a school, and all of a sudden you spread out so thin that you haven't perfected one. So we decided to say, you know what? Let's try to perfect this restaurant, and then as we perfect it, then maybe the Lord will lead us to a treatment room. Let's try to perfect that instead of trying to do everything at once. So this is, and we realize we need help. So to answer your question, we do grow as much as we can in our garden. We know we need to expand our production probably about 2 or 3 times this year in order to meet the demand. But even by doing that little garden, we still save a ton of money, a ton of money.
What are, is that, hello? Okay. What are the, let's say like the top 5 things that you think you need right now?
Top 5, number 1, we need somebody with the talent of means. So there's a quote in Ministry of Healing that says, we accomplish little because we attempt little. Right, so I'm looking at the 10-day challenge and I see that this thing can be expanded to places that you cannot even imagine. And I said, okay, now we're at a point of growth where in order for us to get to that next level, there's going to be some type of somebody who sees the vision and has a talent of means. So we're praying about that, and somebody has come and really been, because we want to expand it. Because if we can be successful in the town of 4,000 people for 4 years with the model of a 10-day challenge in a restaurant, you put us in a large metropolitan city with 100,000, we wouldn't be able to keep up with the amount of people on a 10-day challenge. Because we can barely keep up with it ourselves within a little small town. So this is the things that we have. We have a systematic thing. We have a business plan. The Spirit of Prophecy says have well-ordered plans. So when you present it to people with means, the Lord may impress them to invest in the Word. So that's number 1. What's number 2? Top 5. She said the top 5 things we need. Prayer. Prayer should have been 1.
Yeah.
Let's switch that. Prayer number 1 obviously means somebody
willing people.
Willing people. Well, mainly we're trying to develop like YouTube
Missionaries.
marketing and Facebook marketing. Somebody with that expertise, somebody with a website, somebody who can look at our manual. I'm not really techie. I'm not really, audio visual thing, But we're trying to create a manual because we're working with. I'm not going to say the company, but this particular industry is the largest in the world. And they've called us to say, hey, we got a problem. We got 21,000 employees and 17,500 failed their annual physical. This is a problem. Can you help us? So we're going in there and we're negotiating. I don't know. I'm like, my school thought is, can you do it? Yes. How you going to do it? And don't worry about all that. Yes, we can do it. If the Lord wants it to happen, He's going to make it happen. So I'm not going to be like, well, I'm not ready to go and walk through it. I'm like, okay, we go through it. And if the Lord's going to close the door, He's going to close the door. But we're going to learn something through this process. But if He opens the door, but we want to make it a professional booklet. We're trying to develop networks, whether it's using Zoom media, Zoom to have health coaching, ongoing health coaching. So somebody who understands the 8 laws of health who may be in California, but they can come onto the network and say, hey, I got 5 people, I need you to do coaching. So, that's a whole business model. So just people with ideas as we grow this thing, because we see the potential of it. You see the conversation that was happening, and we wasn't in control of that conversation. We wasn't even in this conversation. They were talking about Seventh-day Adventists. They were talking about the 10-day health challenge and how this Adventist church, imagine there was an Adventist in that particular thing. Hey, would you like to study why the Adventist church, da-da-da-da? And you have a Bible study right there, but we're not having access to it because we're not on this medium that they're on. So as we were talking to the brother, we're in, sometimes the Adventist church want to be on typewriters when everybody's using flat screens, you know, and we need to be where people at using technology. So I don't even know. So that's some of the main needs people. Oh, we got three. That was three, and those are the top. I said willing people.
Willing people,
Yeah.
the means, prayer.
Yeah, we need, you know, I think what will help it grow is to have
Oh, I know. No.
more churches to see it,
Yeah.
to take part of it and say how this is benefiting your church. You know, we've had people come and say, man, why are we spending $50,000 on evangelistic meeting, and we can just do a couple 10-day challenges and we'll get exactly what we did for a tenth of the cost. And you're getting right into people's homes for a tenth of the cost. So that's yeah. We want it to spread.
This is just a comment, but just to say what you're talking about with networking, I do look at non-Adventist marketing things and things like that. And I see a lot of times non-Adventists, they network, they grow. And as far as Adventists, like when you think about a mentor or somebody that's going to help you in that, it's like you're on your own in the Adventist, just specific in the Adventist church, but non-Adventists know how to link up. And so I think it is very important to network, like you're saying.
And that is what we're trying to accomplish. You know, one time we're like, I created something good, so I'm gonna keep it all to myself. And no. That's not what people who are successful do. They share it. They share. So we're trying to share what we've took 4 years to perfect. Any other questions? Oh, right here.
Can you share a little bit about Bristol, how it's going over there?
Oh, yes. So we're in Bristol, Seventh-day Adventist Church now, working with the Fisher Farm, and it has been a tremendous blessing so far. We first got there, and they really didn't know how to explain the program, so they had about 8 people signed up. We got on the ground, and we started, you know, explaining the program and talking to people. We invited people out to the kickoff meeting, and we had 23 people sign up for the program. And for the kickoff meeting, we had over 50 people there, 50 some odd people there, all interested in it. We're family and friends. So we started off with the kickoff meeting. At the end of the program, we had several people say they want to sign up for the program. And so we're at day, 7 now? 7. We had one guy, we did a health consultation with. His blood sugars was in the 300-400 range. They're starting to drop down dramatically. His blood pressure is already in his normal ranges. We had one guy who was diabetic. I talked to him last night, early yesterday morning, before he went to work, about 5 o'clock in the morning, we was having a conversation, and he told me that his blood sugars are starting to come down, and he's cutting back his medication. And this is day 7. So we're having a fantastic time, and it is a tremendously successful. On Sunday, we have a Bible study with one of the participants, and on Monday we're doing an in-home cooking classes with 5 Jehovah's Witnesses and their whole family. They might invite more people there, and the graduation is Tuesday. We did a dinner with Dr. Neblett on this past Tuesday. He spoke about the coronavirus and how using the 8 laws of health, we can help to increase our immune system to fight off infection. So it's been a tremendous time that we've been having over here in Bristol. And so we're hoping that more people see it, that it is something very easy. Their mouth dropped when I said we're going to do it, because they didn't know this family. They knew the family was Jehovah's Witnesses, but it was like, Jehovah's Witnesses, you can't get in there. But it's like they invited you to do an in-home cooking class? Yeah, and they're inviting everybody. And why? Because of the health message. So it's hard to explain it. You just got to experience it. You have to see it. You just have to see it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What can we do to bring you guys here?
Well, we have to just look at the calendar and see what dates we have available. It probably would have to be, I don't know. We just have to look at the dates and see. And you know, we're all about mission.
Yeah,
you
we're
know.
open.
So you understand, when we come, we're coming, you know. I tell people, I say, we got one speed. One speed, and that's 100 miles, we go. And they said, man, y'all got to, I said, the Bible got one speed too. He said, what is it? Whatever you find your hand to do, do it with all your might. So when we come, we do it with all our might, and we make sure that the participants get all what they wanted throughout the program. So yeah, if you guys want us to come back and do a 10-day challenge here, we can talk more about it after Sabbath and how that can work. Some marketing things that we can do to get people. I don't know if you guys want to do a health expo. I don't know what type of plans you guys already have in town to try to reach the community. But yeah, we can definitely brainstorm about that and pick a date. But
This is why I was. That's what I was going to talk about. You know, what's your schedule like? So I guess Sister Nord, we're all thinking alike. Because Brother Nord mentioned that even after. Okay. Well, I know your husband already mentioned it outside there, you know, so let us know, and we have some things that we are actually working on here, so it'd be wonderful if we can all fit it all together.
yeah,
You know, so I'm grateful for your ministry and what you presented, you know, because like I stated, we are on the move here at Pioneer to implement a whole broad spectrum of things. You know, and what you mentioned is just going to be in addition to what we plan to do
praise
here.
the Lord.
And I love the fact that you all are willing to share what you have. You know, that's just a tremendous blessing because that's the spirit of Christ. You know, and so we seek to work together in whatever we can do to help you.
Yeah.
Just please let us know.
Okay.
You know, because we're more than willing. We're a small group, but guess what? The more we evangelize, the more people will be added to this
That's
movement.
right. That's
You know,
right.
So we praise the Lord for that.
That's right.
Yes. Any other questions?
Where's that basket?
Okay, we're going to take up an offering. So are you guys excited? Yeah. Are you ready to work? No. That didn't sound as loud as the first thing. Yeah.
Are you ready to do a Bible study? We're lined up for you.
Okay, so you can just go and collect. Then it shall be given unto you, good measure pressed down and running over, give, and it shall be given unto you. Luke chapter 6:38. And it shall be given unto you, good measure pressed down and running over, and it shall be given unto you. Luke chapter 6:38. Amen. I'm sure each of us were blessed this day with this ministry. Amen.